If you're a regular viewer of WVUT TV, by now you've likely learned that the station is ending its affiliation with PBS. The discussion surrounding that decision began following state and federal budget cuts affecting public broadcasting as well as colleges and universities. It was not a decision that was made lightly, and we know many viewers have questions about why it happened and what comes next. Joining us today to talk about the decision and the future of WVUT is Interim Director of Operations and General Manager of WVUT TV and WVUB FM Radio, Kevin Watson. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Dave.
So as we get started here, let's just go back as far as you need to and kind of walk us through the steps of the events that led up to the decision.
So this really started over a year ago, last spring, March into April, as we got into the end of the budget cycle with the state legislature. And because of shortfalls in the revenue projections, they had to make some cuts, which affected both the university itself, Vincennes University, as well as public stations across, not just us, but all of the public stations that were funded through the education department with the state of Indiana. And it went from about a $4 million budget to zero as they made those cuts. So that was the initial hurdle. And then subsequent to that, in not too long a time, the decision was made for the rescission in Congress, which cut the funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Right.
And so before I go any further with the funding issue and how we got to where we are, I do want to say thank you and recognize Nicole Carey, who was the previous General Manager and Director of Operations, for her stewardship, and also those that preceded both of us in how they handled the funds that we got from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the state of Indiana. Many years ago, predating, I'm sure, both of us, someone made a decision. Those were 2-year grants. And so we would spend the money out in the second year of that grant cycle. So even though the money was ended at that time last year, we didn't get an additional grant, we still had funding for another year that we had in the bank, essentially, that we could use. So we were in a much better position than some stations because we were able to do some more forward planning without being so much under the gun. Now, the way that impacted the decision about PBS, that was a little bit slower moving because we had to determine where we were at. So when I took this position in early August as the interim director and general manager, one of the first things I had to do was kind of evaluate where we were at and look for other funding sources. One of those was through the public media company, who had worked with a lot of large philanthropic organizations to put a pool of about $50 to $60 million together. Their ultimate goal is about $100 million. And they wanted to get that into the hands of stations by the end of the calendar year, 2025, if possible. So we applied for both the radio station, WVUB, and the TV station, WVUT. We got the grant for the radio station.
Right.
In part because of the good job we had done fiscally in having money on hand, we did not show enough need, in their opinion, to get the grant for television.
Okay.
Once that happened, and that was paid out at the end of November into December, once we knew that wasn't going to happen, I knew that we had to start really looking seriously at whether we could continue with PBS.
Right, because it is expensive to carry their programming.
It is. Now, after the rescission, PBS did make some cuts to the membership dues for all stations, regardless of size. We are considered a small station in a rural area, and so we probably got the most generous price breaks. But even at that, it was just shy of $200,000 that we paid out over this past fiscal year, including just some last month to wrap up our membership with PBS.
Yeah. So what does a PBS affiliation require from a station?
Well, the membership fee, of course, and then there is also a percentage of carriage, meaning the number of programs we carry from the network, and they want us to carry a certain percentage of those as must carry, partly because they do national underwriting for those programs, and they want to make sure that those underwriters are getting as much coverage as possible across the country. So that limited somewhat some of our local programming options. And we chose to carry a significant amount of PBS programming at a little bit above what we would have had to have.
Yeah. So what part did the university play as a whole in this decision?
So I want to thank Dean Dr. Cynthia Regal. She is the dean of the college that we are affiliated with, Social Sciences, Performing Arts, and Communication. throughout this, she has been very helpful. Obviously, she's interested in the academic side of things, how our interfacing with students continues, and how that is impacted by what we do or don't do with the broadcast stations, and specifically WVUT, as we're looking at now. And then the university was very supportive as well. But again, I want to reiterate, they were also dealing with an unexpected shortfall because of cuts that were made at the state level and also at the federal level. And so at the same time we were trying to determine alternate funding sources and what we could and couldn't do, they were also having to do some of that same work across the university system.
Okay. So once that decision was made, so if we're not going to have PBS, what kind of programming are we going to have?
Well, before we do that, let me just step back because I want to make sure people understand why we made the decision when we did.
Right.
PBS requires a 6-month, if you're not going to be an affiliate, if you're going to no longer be a member station, they ask you to have a 6-month window before that. Our time with PBS, our current agreement ends on June 30th of 2026. Mm-hmm. That meant that decision had to be made in January.
Yeah.
I was hopeful that maybe we would find some additional funding and do some other things, but we had to at least tentatively tell them what our decision was going to be so they could plan accordingly, because we aren't the only station in the country that's doing this, and they have to figure the membership dues, and that's part of their revenue, and so to be fair to them. So we had to make this decision relatively early in the year, in the calendar year, so that we could make sure that they were covered, and we also had a plan of where we were going forward. We did have the option, if we had been able to somehow come up with some money that we weren't planning on, we could have adjusted that, but it became very clear by April that that wasn't going to happen, and this was the way forward. Okay. So your question is, then what do we do next?
Yes.
And we've looked at that a lot over the last few months, but one of the things we want to do is focus more on the local community, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the other thing is I want people to understand and be confident that we are going to have quality programming on the air as we have. It won't be PBS programming because we're no longer able to carry that because we will not be affiliated with them, and we legally can't. But we will have programming from NETA, which is the National Educational Telecommunications Association. In fact, some of the programming they produce is seen on PBS. There's also the American Public Television, and several others that are out there that have sources of public television and educational television that we're going to be using to help cover those hours, as well as some of our local programming.
Okay. And PBS did carry some of that programming on some stations as well.
That is correct,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned, of course, the education aspect. We're here to teach students who get into broadcasting. And so what does this mean for students now?
Honestly, the change, if anything, is positive. It really doesn't change a whole lot because it had been our mission all along to include them in what we were doing as much as we can. But we are working even closer now with the dean and with the faculty that are teaching these classes in figuring out even more ways that we can integrate students into what we're doing in our day-to-day operations when they're in session, and to give them opportunities to experience basically the real world, as we call it, of broadcasting.
And like you said, we're going to have more local programming, and they will be involved with that. So like you wanted to talk about what is some of the local programming that we're...
So we're, of course, doing this program for City Focus.
Yes, it will continue.
And we have another program that we've done as a digital series, but we've also had some of it on air with a History Vault, and we're looking at revamping that a little bit. And then as the students come back in the fall, of course, they're on break right now, most of them, we're going to look at some student productions and what they might be able to do that we might be able to share with the public on a broader basis. And that gives them experience, also gives them a chance for people to see what they're doing, which you and I were both broadcast students at one time.
Yes.
And it is a significantly different experience when you're making something for a class project, or if somebody's actually going to hear it or see it over the air.
Exactly. So what do you want viewers to understand about WVUT at this point in time?
So main thing I want everybody to understand is, as you're watching this, is we're not going away. We work really hard, and I work in lockstep with the financial folks here at Vincennes University along with the other funding sources and things I've talked about, so that we could continue and be solvent for another year and put together this programming package. Yeah. And so I want people to understand we're not going away while we are leaving PBS, we're not leaving the community. And in fact, we are going to refocus even closer on the people we serve here locally, the institutions that we serve here locally, both the university but also others in the community, not-for-profits and other community agencies that we have long been partners with, but we want to increase those opportunities.
Yeah. And we're also going to be more involved with the university as well.
Yes, and so we have been working with external relations, and we're going to do some in-house production for the university. Again, students will probably have a chance to be involved in some of that. That will be things that you may or may not see here, but we'll be seen on social media and other places, basically promoting Vincent's University and the offerings that the university has, as well as what we offer through our program here.
So before we wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to tell the viewers or let folks know about what's going on here?
Well, a couple of things. One is talking about partnerships and other organizations and things. When students aren't here, like right now, we have really great facilities, and we have really talented people who do exceptional work, and we want to make those facilities available to organizations, and in some cases businesses, but we're not directly wanting to compete with those that are doing this commercially, but we want to really help super serve those that are public service organizations and others. Right. And our fees are very reasonable. The product is really good, and if you are interested in that, you can reach out to me directly. My direct office line is 812-888-4950. That's 812-888-4950. Or my email address is the first letter of my first name, Kevin. Last name is W-A-T-S-O-N, so it's kwatson@vinu.edu. And be happy to talk to you about that. We already have some folks that are taking advantage of that or have taken advantage of it in the last few months. And we have some really great facilities. We'd like to see how we might be able to help folks. In addition to that, I just want folks to, again, to know that we're here. We're not going away, and we are kind of doubling down on the community. And if you have a group or organization and have interest in what we're doing, please reach out to us. Reach out to Dave Foster. He's our news director as well as the host here on First City Focus. Reach out to myself, and we will see how we might be able to partner with you to expand your service area as well.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, we thank you for being here and sharing the details. I know a lot of folks had questions, and you've answered them, so we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
And we do thank you for your continued support of WVUT. Change never easy, but it can be positive, and we do invite you to join our journey and learn and grow with us.